this is Seleena Rian for Hazzardous Material, and we're with Ghost Hunters Alberta. How are you doing today?
Good.
So what's your name?
Bonnie.
Bonnie. So Bonnie, I have some awesome questions for you. Are you excited? Okay. So how did you get into ghost hunting?
That's a big one. Actually, I started in ghost hunting for kind of some people think a funny reason. I wanted to prove that a member of my family wasn't crazy.
Oh, really?
They were seeing ghosts, and a lot of the other members of the family thought they were a little nuts. And I didn't know if there was a way to prove that what they were saying, so I went to the library, signed a bunch of books, and learned all about paranormal investigating, and taught myself starting at age 13.
Oh my god.
The good news is I proved that this family member wasn't crazy.
So it's like in your blood, like kind of.
Yeah, and I grew up in a house from a very young age that had paranormal activity.
Oh.
We had a fellow that had hung himself in the basement.
Oh.
And it would play like a residual haunting. It would just happen once in a while if everything lined up. And pretty much every member of my family saw it at least once.
Oh wow!
So,
like
yeah.
was it just like a vision, like in the corner of your eye?
It would just if you were in the right spot at the right time, in the right direction.
Oh, okay.
This is Geronimo. Being Geronimo.
Show yourself.
Looks to be the center of attention at all times. Yeah, it would just appear, and you see him hanging in one of the bedroom that was in the basement in the closet. So if you have the closet doors open, you could see him hanging there.
Wow.
And it was full, like he was right there. It wasn't like you could see through it. It wasn't like it was a shadow. It was like it was happening right in front of you.
Wow, that would be so intense.
Yeah.
Like, did anybody like get scared? Like,
Well,
how were the
we actually,
reaction?
I mean, I won't get into the details, but we lived in that house twice. And the first time we lived in that house, it was my parents' bedroom was in the basement. And we moved away and came back. When we moved back into that house, my mom did not want to live in that room.
Oh.
So they put my brother in that room. So that's when he discovered the ghost.
Oh, wow.
And of course he came and told me and my sister, so we would camp out in his room once in a while to see if we could see the ghost.
And did you find out who it was? Like,
no, we didn't. No, we never did find any history or anything.
No.
But all three of us saw it on more than one occasion, and my brother lived with that in his room. So.
And do you think people like when they see that are they trying to send a message? Like, what's the point
I
of
think
that?
in this case, as best I could figure, like I said, it was residual. I think it was just a really traumatic, intense psychic moment that left an imprint. I'm not even sure if he was still there. It might have just been the house replaying the event.
Yeah.
But it sparked, I mean, this was from age 4, 5, 6. And then again, we lived there when I was 8, 9, 10.
Yeah.
So it was a large part of my life living with that
Yeah.
and having a member of the family that saw spirits on a regular basis. So it just was part of my life. Growing up psychic as well kind of helped because I mean, I read people, I don't read ghosts, but it still left me open to more possibilities.
And do you think it's kind of like a dimension thing? Like, could it be like you're kind of seeing... You know, is that a thing?
Well, and this thing, I always say to people that I don't know. Other than the few rare cases that I've been on where 100% we know that this ghost, this is their name, and this is when they died, and all that. We don't know what we're experiencing. We just know it's outside of the normal. And I've heard all kinds of theories from interdimensional stuff, time slips, aliens, ghosts.
Internet.
So actually that's the catch. With Ghost Hunt Alberta, whenever I come across something that we can't absolutely 100% can't explain, the whole team just looks at one another and says aliens.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
just our catch on this. That's our last of the list. If nothing else must be aliens.
Yeah, aliens. Yeah, I like that. So what is the creepiest thing that has happened during a hunt?
Oh God, there's so many. I always go back to those moments where your skin just crawls, and maybe not just because you're afraid, but because you know that you're in the presence of something you just don't understand.
Yeah.
And those moments are inevitably when you're touched.
Oh.
And I've been touched numerous times by things that I can't explain. And most of the time when it's happened in the moment, I honestly think a person just touched me. Wow. And then that second later when I realized there was nobody there to touch me, it's like your whole body just reacts to the experience. And I don't really get scared per se anymore. I get curious at that moment, but every time I get a little cold feeling in my gut, like, because I don't know what that was, right? I know I was touched, 100%, no doubt.
Wow.
Like I've had, let's see an example. We were in East Cooley School Museum, not last year, but the year before. And there's a room there that they've rebuilt a settler's cabin right in the room. And we investigate in there all the time. And I was in there just checking the room out before we set up for an investigation, and all the lights were out. But I kind of pirouetted in the room just to kind of make sure I had clear space around me. And as I was turning, something came up and touched me, like to that firmness. And I assumed in that moment I backed into a light bulb hanging from the ceiling, something, right? So I asked the team member Ryan to toss me your flashlight. Toss me his flashlight, I tried the flashlight. There's nothing within like 6 feet of me that could have been. And so I knew in that moment that something had touched me. So I tossed the flashlight back to him. As soon as it was dark again, I felt a breath in my ear.
Oh my gosh.
And and then at that point, nobody else wanted to come in the cabin with me for the rest of the night. There was no guests or team members that would set foot in that cabin.
Like, is it, did you find out like what was like possibly there?
Well, in theory, because we've been investigating at the East Cooley School Museum for going on 7 years now. Our only theory with that cabin so far is we've had contact with somebody who speaks Ukrainian or German. We're not sure yet.
Or Polish.
Yeah, something in that field. But how I know that is at the end of the night, whenever we're done at East Cooley, I go around and turn off all the lights in the place. For the lady that watches us, she's too freaked out by that point. So I go around, I check all the rooms, make sure we've got all our stuff. And I'm in there and I do my usual thank you ghosties. I always say that. And instead that night, I don't know why, I walked in there and I said Donka. And I got a bitta, clear as day.
Oh, wow.
Right in front of my face.
Oh.
So I know that's got to be in that range of languages, right? So,
For them to kind of
and we've played Ukrainian prayers in there and had reactions, like all the meters will go off and that sort of thing. So.
Wow. Oh, that's kind of sweet and at the same time. It's kind of nice.
Like, it's just, I try to tell people, it's being scared of this stuff is what blocks us from experiencing it.
Exactly.
Because in my experience, ghosts can't hurt you, really. I mean, they can do little things that might be scary in the moment. But what I'm always saying to people, if you're afraid of toddlers, then be afraid of ghosts. And by me, saying toddlers can do a lot of things. They can scratch you, they can bite you, they can push you, they can say mean things, right? But
they can't really
hurt you, right? So unless you want them to, right?
Exactly.
All the cases you hear about of really bad things happening, somebody's invited it.
Exactly. So what do you think about Ouija boards? Is that something that you don't?
I end up with a lot of them on my doorstep. It's kind of funny. My husband just gets sick and tired of stepping over Ouija boards, but to me, they're kind of like any other tool out there.
Oh, like a portal, right?
Yeah. The only problem with them is that for some reason, spirits like to attach themselves to them. So it's at
What
risk.
about a sex Ouija board?
Not heard of this actually, and again, it's a matter of what you're.
Would it work?
It might.
Okay.
Well, like
Hazard, get rid of it.
And I would always say, if somebody absolutely wants to experiment with a Ouija board, get a piece of paper and a pen, write down your Ouija board, use it when you're done, burn it. There's no trace of it, and it's less likely that something's going to attach itself to a piece of paper than some ornate board or something you've put emotional ties into.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, spirits can attach themselves to anything, and if you're sitting in a dark room with a bunch of friends inviting spirits in, something's going to come and take advantage of that situation, guaranteed.
Wow.
So, don't do it, because then you got to drop stuff off on my doorstep. And
Exactly. Has anyone freaked out during a ghost hunt?
Yes, and actually it's kind of funny because we've been doing events as Ghost Hunt Alberta for 7 years now, so it's a lot of the general public who hasn't investigated before coming out with this. And it's funny because there's, let's say, 4 cases where people have absolutely just left the event. They're done. And 3 of those 4 were always men.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Men?
it's always the guys. It's usually the guys that have been dragged along by their girlfriend or whatever. They're not into this stuff, and the moment that things get real, they're done.
Yeah.
They're done. They're
My
out of
partner's
there.
very sensitive with that kind of thing too, like watching. I'm just like, watch it. It's not. It's just a show. Like, you know what I mean? I think he would definitely.
Yeah.
There's
Like
some
even to the
marbles.
point that that's it. They walked out and got in their car and left, and all they would say on the way out was, "Oh my God, I didn't realize this stuff was real, and I'm done. I don't want to have anything to do with this."
I wonder why men are more sensitive like that. Sometimes.
I don't know, but it's just funny that it is. The only time it was women, they had misread the event. They thought it was a ghost walk.
Kitty.
Again, Geronimo.
He went, oh, okay.
Like I said, He likes to do this. And he farted on the way past.
Yeah.
This is great.
Was it?
Thank you, Momo. That's his
Nice
defense
squishy
mechanism.
peanut
Sorry,
on his
it's
tummy.
his defense mechanism. If anybody picks him up when he doesn't want to be picked up, he farts. So.
Okay. Sorry. Oh, that's okay.
Anyway.
I have cats, so I get
You
it.
get it?
I get it.
Where was I?
Yeah. Just like being, who's afraid. Like, has there been like epic moments of
and I was
fear?
saying about the girls that came. They misread the event. They thought it was like a ghost walk. Where we're going to be walking through the building and telling stories.
Yeah.
And they get there and realize, no, this is standing around in the dark communicating with ghosts. And as soon as the first thing happened, that was it. They just they came up to me and said, sorry.
Yeah.
We're gone.
Yeah, this is like a little bit too much.
Exactly. An email the next day saying, so sorry that we left, but we're never coming to one of your events again.
Well, that's nice that they apologized. Do you have a favorite ghost hunt location?
Well, the one I was just talking, East Cooley, kind of.
East Cooley,
for me, just because of all the years of doing this, I've never come across a location with so many spirits.
Really?
And
how come that is?
It's full of stuff. It's an old school that's Maternity Museum, and it's full of donated objects from the community. The miners' room there is full of stuff that's been pulled right out of mines. In some cases, clothing that was pulled right off the backs of guys as they were dying. So it holds so much energy, residual and spiritual energy, that we're guaranteed every time we set foot in there to have something happen. And it's in Drumheller, or by Drumheller. Yeah. And that whole Hoodoo Valley has its own weird energy that I cannot explain. Yeah. We get weird EMF bubbles in there that are just like crazy numbers, like solar flare numbers, like, like if you hold an EMF detector up to your microwave, when it's running, you might get a 97, something like that. Same thing with the TV on. Right?
Do you want to show us like some of your equipment?
Sure. And I'll pull one of these out. So and when it's really high like that in the 500 range, that's equivalent to standing in like a power plant. And we've had pockets of this in the middle of a school in East Cooley, or out in the middle of the hoodoos where there's nothing going on. So it's just interesting. But yeah, this is just an EMF detector.
Cool.
And we use ones that are used by electricians, not made for ghost hunting, so I know that they haven't been messed with. They just detect changes in the EMF.
Oh, because that people do that to
there's a lot of false ones out there that will just go off randomly and, for entertainment purposes, that sort of thing. So I know that these are legitimate. I get them checked out once a year by somebody who's an electrician, make sure they're all working and doing what they're supposed to be doing. But we look for changes in the EMF field because ghosts can both produce it and kind of feed off of it. So anytime there's a change, it means there might be something there.
Yeah,
and sometimes we can communicate.
How did someone discover that this is what you would use?
It was actually a very long time ago, when all the way back to, I don't know, even Victorian age, and that when they were doing seances and stuff, they would notice electrical fluctuations, right? As soon as we had electricity and people were messing with spirits, we noticed that spirits find it easier to interact with electronics than they do with us.
Yeah. Okay.
So the natural thing you go to then is the electromagnetic field, because all electronics give off EMF.
Yeah. So do you find that this is a little bit off during like Mercury retrograde? Because that's like that doesn't. The only thing
that affects this is cell phones, electricity, and solar flares.
Okay.
So if we're going out to an event and we know there's going to be solar flare activity, we know to expect some really weird EMF hits. And always I have everybody who's out on investigations to put their phones in airplane mode.
Really? Okay.
And if a meter goes off, first thing I say, look around you.
Yeah,
Are you standing next to an electrical outlet?
Yeah. Well, just to, you want to be sure.
But in some cases, we can get an entity to turn it on for yes, turn it off for no. I can line up two, use one for yes and one for no. We can actually get conversations going.
Oh, kind of like a pendulum.
Yeah.
That's neat.
Only more reliable.
Yeah, right? So that's really awesome. Okay. Do you offer in-home ghost hunts?
We do. With 7 years into this, since we started Ghost Hunt Alberta, things are a little bit different now, because I went out at every single investigation that lands in my inbox, I would be doing this every single night of the year, and I would have no time to make a living or spend time with my family, or etc.
That's kind of exciting, though.
It is, and it's great, and it's great for experience. But I'm doing this for 30 years. I have plenty of experience. But we have a secondary team this year that has just started up of some Ghost Hunt Alberta members who will be going out and doing most. It's a cat destroying my couch. It's okay.
No scratchy.
that's Dean Winchester, and he's a little destructive. Anyways, yeah, and so it's I lost my train. Goddamn cats.
Sorry. Cats are always.
But yeah, it's where was I?
Oh, like going to people's houses.
Oh yeah,
and
okay.
Whatnot, yeah.
So they'll be going out and doing a lot of calls, but we have a criteria that we have people go through first to kind of weed out the cases where it's your furnace, it's your neighbor's cat, it's that sort of thing before we even set foot in the house. But we do offer that for free when needed to help people out. But I always caution people, like, we're a paranormal investigation company. We will come in and debunk it or say that there's something there. We're not there to help you remove it.
Yeah. So like, have you ever had that, like, gone to someone's house and been like, oh my god, this is like hardcore.
Every
haunted.
single one of the cases that I've had that have concerned me the most have always been in somebody's home.
Really?
So the big public locations and that, there's lots of activity and things happening, but the ones where I get concerned are always in somebody's home.
Oh, and do they feel sick? Like, are there health concerns?
What gets concerning is that it's usually personal. Right?
Oh.
So it might be a family member that's trying to communicate but doing it really badly. It might be something that really horrible happened in that house and these poor people just moved into the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
And there's almost always children involved in a family, and that's when it gets serious. And unfortunately, I'm coming across more and more cases, because this is an in thing now, of people like, they watched Ghost Adventures, so now they've decided to go ghost something in their living room, and now they've invited something in, and they don't know what to do with it, and now they have stuff happening all the time. So
would you just kind of put salt around the house and like do a prayer? Like, is it could you do like
as a psychic? I do offer services for that, but as Ghost Hunt Alberta, we do not. We will come in and we'll prove that there's something there or not, and then from there it's up to the homeowner what they want to do. We can refer them to people, obviously, but a lot of people don't realize those services aren't free.
Exactly.
I've done spirit removals in 30 years of being a psychic, and it's like standing in somebody's living room holding a couch over my head for 6 hours. Like, it's intense. Time consuming. It uses a lot of energy. I can't work for 3 days afterwards. So that's lost income for me, right? So I charge for that, because it's a big deal, right? And, obviously in some cases, if it's, people have no money and it's a family situation, I try to do the best I can for them. But it's difficult. It is.
Oh, super draining.
Yeah, and as far as salt and smudging, all that will do is make a spirit uncomfortable.
Oh, like an irritate, like
it'll irritate them and make them stop for a while. Having somebody come in and bless the house is better. What I do as a psychic when I go in is I actually use my energy and I push everything out of the house.
Oh wow!
And generally, when I do that, messes them up enough that they do not come back. Sometimes it means that I have to come back in 3 months or 6 months. But most of the time, once I do that once, they do not come back.
Oh, that's good.
So,
well,
but that's why it's exhausting.
Yeah, I'd say it's like energy vampire people. Like, you're like, oh, I can't be around this person. I need a detox.
Exactly. That's awful.
Here's a fun question: if you could talk to any dead celebrity, who would it be?
Oh, there's so many. I'll actually go to. This is hilarious, but one of my first experiences with actually reaching out to a spirit was in 1977 when Elvis died.
Aww.
So my mom and my grandmother were devastated, and my mom's joke in my family was always that he was my dad. It was always, he's your real dad. She was. And
we all wish he was.
So when he died, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. And I'm 7 or 8 years old at that time, and so I got together with a group of girlfriends for a sleepover, and I talked them into doing a seance in the bathroom. And calling in Elvis. And anyways, we did this seance in the bathroom. Nothing happened. About 10 minutes after the seance, I was in the bathroom alone, and turned out the lights and looked in the mirror and called Elvis, and I saw a rose come out of the mirror.
Aww.
And
that's so
ever
sweet.
since then, it's like that's the number one. I would love to connect with Elvis again to find out if that was really him then, and whether or not he's my dad.
Right? I think we all think he's our real dad.
I'd kind of like to know.
Yeah. Is there an interaction with your mom?
According to her, there was, but nobody can corroborate that. And
Oh,
Mom's been known to make up a story or two.
I feel his energy is really strong right now, especially with me, like his music, and I don't know, there's something with Elvis going on.
I think there always will be. He had one of those dynamic personalities, right? That I think that, like, and people always say to me, well, then is Elvis dead? And I'm like, well, that's debatable, but I'm pretty sure by now he is. But
Of course, yeah, he would be quite
with all
old
his
by
health
now.
issues, I don't think he would.
No.
But yeah, it's just
I know.
resurgent.
We're all
for sure.
hoping that our celebrities are still alive. Prince.
Well, that's part of
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That's part of celebrity is that immortality, right?
Yeah.
for sure.
Aw. Can you offer any advice for fans who want to get into ghost hunting?
Come out to one of our events.
Oh.
It's a safe way to come out and explore the possibilities, and like I said, safely, because I do not recommend going into places on your own. That's how people get hurt, and it's disrespectful to the spirit and the location, and it makes it hard for the rest of us, because the more people that treat a place badly, the less likely they are to say yes to legitimate groups.
Exactly, right?
So if you want to get into paranormal investigating, come out to one of our events or one of the other events going on out there. There isn't many in Alberta other than me, but I hope there is one day. I hope other people start doing this, but and explore that before you jump in it. We do offer a training course twice a year
That's nice.
that people can come out and learn about paranormal investigating and the equipment and everything else in a safe environment, and get all the do's and don'ts.
Yeah, and so do you have any upcoming events?
Lots. We have a couple of really big ones coming up again. East Cooley School Museum is in March 21st. I always recommend that one because, like I said, most haunted place I've ever been. And our big one for the year, we only do this once a year, is we go down into Montana to the old Montana State Prison, and we get the entire prison complex for 7 hours. Complete access for full paranormal investigation.
Yeah, and so like with prison, what kind of things do you think you would encounter there? Like, is there
We've
a lot of
encountered,
violence?
there's a lot of violence. At this one, because there was a riot there that people were killed, we get a lot of stuff, residual stuff from that. We've had, me and another team member one year, we're setting up equipment in what we call the Death Tower. Great name for it. Because that's where these two guys who started the riot ended up dying. And when they died, they threw their bodies down the stairs and then displayed them on the lawn of the courtyard of the prison for days and let them rot as a deterrent for the prisons not to do this, right? So anyways, we're setting up equipment in the Death Tower, and we're on the 3rd floor, and we hear what sounds like boot steps coming down from the 4th floor, and I just assumed it's one of the museum staff that's for whatever reason still there. So I yell out, and there's nobody there. Go look up, there's nobody there. Freak out a little bit, go back to setting up the equipment. A few minutes later, it happens again. We hear the boot steps, all the dust kicks up in the stairwell even at the same time, and you can hear footsteps. It happened like 4 times within a half-hour period.
Oh wow!
And that video is on our YouTube channel, and it's pretty
Serious?
intense.
Oh my
It's
gosh, go
it's
check
one
it
of the
out.
one of the most intense experiences I've had there. And I mean, we've had people get touched there. We have people hear things there. Last year we had a lady who may not be coming out in one of our events again, see a shadow creature walked right past her into a cell.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
And she was very rattled. She was very, very rattled.
I would be rattled for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so if people see, like you said, like, shadow, whatever, is that same with, like, what do they call it when you get, like, you're in your bed and you're like, oh, and like,
sleep paralysis.
sleep paralysis, yeah.
Some of the shadows are more of a bigger phenomenon than that, but yeah, it's shadows. I mean, sometimes shadows are it's just the form that the spirit's taken. Then there's some we call them creatures. Those are the ones that don't look like people. And we used to have one in the basement of one of the houses we lived in that would just crawl up the walls and across the ceiling.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yes.
Yes, my daughter got so used to it. Just like, Mom,
This guy's crawling up the walls again.
he's trying to be scary again. He's creeping me out. Yeah, so.
He's like El Coco.
That's why I wish Charlotte was here today, because she's my top investigator for a reason.
Yes, I met
She's
her,
lived
yes.
in all this stuff. For entire life.
Yeah.
And she's been investigating with me since she was 14.
Yeah.
So
I remember because we went to one of the Ghost Hunt Alberta's get-togethers. Like you do those at the pubs or whatnot.
Paranormal pub nights.
Yeah, those are so much fun. And the Cat and Fiddle, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, that place, like the minute I walked in the door, I'm like, what's that smell? I said to Hazard, and she's like, well, it's like used to be a funeral home. And I was like, oh, no, that's kind of cool.
Or it was just burnt pizza, we don't know.
Oh yeah, or just burnt pizza. Hopefully. That's so fun. So those kind of things don't have like the same kind of like sleep paralysis and like shadow people types of things. They aren't.
Well, not that I've experienced at the pubs, no. But no, and those two things are not really connected. Sleep paralysis is psychiatric disorder. It is. It's a sleep disorder.
Wow.
It's an actual proven disorder. Whether or not there's a supernatural component to it is always up for question. But it's actually been proven that it's part of the brain that gets stimulated during sleep that makes you hallucinate that somebody's sitting on your chest and sometimes somebody's standing in the doorway.
Yeah.
But another phenomenon that I've heard about hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times doing this is death omens. So somebody in the family will pass, and somebody will wake up from a dead sleep and see that person standing in their room.
Okay, yeah.
And then they find out later that they died that night.
Oh, yeah.
So,
that would make sense.
And those happen, and like I said, I've heard this story, like I've lost count of the number of times I've heard this. So it's a thing.
Yeah.
You know? And when you hear it from hundreds of people from all different cultures and people.
It's so funny because usually I'll like, if someone in my family's passed away, I'll like, one time I like woke up and there was like, like the name was said on the radio, like in the alarm, and then like a certain song and certain names and stuff like that. And it's totally.
So you just know that it's happened,
But and then you find out and you're like, oh, well, that makes sense, and that's kind of cool. But I always
some people would say that that's normal intuition, that your subconscious is picking up on that happening, but I think it happens way too
much
often to dismiss.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so fun. I love this stuff. I'm having a great time. So, what is your favorite horror movie?
Oh my gosh. Actually, I'll have to go with the first time I watched a movie and it literally scared me so I could not sleep, which was The Exorcist.
Yeah.
The original Exorcist. And I wasn't supposed to be awake. It was my sister's slumber party and I snuck out behind the couch to watch it. So nobody knew I was there. And then I went to bed and I did not sleep that night, and it stuck with me for a lot of years. And then I didn't watch it again until years and years later. And it's funny how it's still one of those movies that just
it comes back with the Ouija board, right? Like you just don't know.
You just don't know. And I think anything involving a child, because I watch a lot of horror movies, anything that has those creepy kids that are that's when Bonnie's like, okay, no, give me ghosts, give me Jason, somebody wearing a chainsaw. That's funny to me. That's humor. But then no, evil children, I'm done.
Yeah, no, let's not go there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have anything you want to show us? Like any haunted items?
Sure. I'm gonna leave the meter there because it might go off. I'm gonna start with this one. So these lovely little shoes were given to me by a lady out of Bassano, Alberta. There was a farmhouse there, and they were renovating, and they found them walled up in the wall.
Oh.
So, and quite often, especially early 1900s, that sort of thing, if a child passed, the family quite often would, or even other family members, would inter something of that person in the walls of the house. Wow. So a piece of clothing or an article to try to keep them with them.
Oh, that's nice.
So anyways, these people were renovating, they come across us, they didn't want it in their house, so she wanted us to take, which is unfortunate because all the activity that we've had around these shoes is spirits telling us to take the shoes back. Okay. And she won't take them back. But through our communications, we've come across a little boy, Jacob Edwards is the name that we've got, and numerous times we've had that voice come through on equipment. And so I've been working with the shoes, trying to help Jacob to cross over.
Oh, I hope he's crossed over.
Yeah, because I don't, when it's a child spirit, and I'm not under contract with these, like if it's a building and there's a spirit there, a lot of times the owner of the buildings don't want me to help them cross over, right? They like their ghosts. So I'm stuck. I can't help them. But in this case, I can. So I'm trying. But so far.
Bless you. Thank you so much for doing this interview. It's been awesome. And stay tuned for all Ghost Hunt Ghost Hunt Alberta events. Thanks so much.
Thank you guys.